How about that?
Oh.
I
like it.
That intro was entirely not scripted.
That was a great intro right there.
Thanks very much.
Yeah,
Yes.
it was good, wasn't it?
I'm just going to jump straight in.
Yeah, go for it.
Welcome back to the 128 KB podcast. We are back once again due to lack of popular demand. That's right. We're here to talk about all things gaming once a week just for you.
Oh, yes.
And thanks for joining us. Today, we've got a slightly morose one.
We do.
I want to talk to you, Andy, about the death of the game store.
Yes. And before we get into that, I want to say about how this kind of like came up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I did a video about how I didn't do a Steam Deck shell replacement. And one of our dear viewers said in the comments, well, why don't you just do it the American way and take it somewhere and get them to do it for you? And
Fair question.
And I went, that's a really good point. I was like, but I'm not sending my Steam Deck away, like to get someone else to hack it together for me.
Yeah.
And they went, no, just take it to the shop and get them to do it. And I kind of had to inform them, like, unfortunately, here in the UK, there ain't no shops that do that.
I wonder if it's the same. I'm pretty sure it will be the same elsewhere in the world. The decline of the game store is real.
Yes. Yeah. It must be.
So there's some really big ones in the UK. GameStop was one.
Yes.
And which it became or merged with.
Yep. Game Station was a big
Game
one.
Station.
Yeah.
We had Games Exchange. That was a chain of them down here.
And then we had loads of random shops that were like entertainment shops that happened to have game sections. So we had HMV.
Yeah.
Even Woolworths.
Yes.
Yeah. What else is WH Smith's used to have it? Supermarkets. So you had Tesco, Sainsbury's, Asda, all those kind of shops. And they've all just kind of disappeared.
Yeah, one by one are slowly disappearing. You'll have seen it if you've walked down any high street in the UK, and I'm sure it's the same elsewhere, that items, the game stores have slowly disappeared or become part of other stores. Just as a kind of statistic, in 2017, I'm going to get really boring now. In 2017, there was almost 7,000 game stores in the UK.
Yes.
At the end of 2022, it's half that number.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it?
Across the whole of the UK.
And with 2023, I'd say it was probably even half again.
Yeah. I think really for me, this kind of discussion came about because of our local game store, which was the only place you could buy new games on our high street, went into a sports shop.
Yes.
And is now at the back of a sports shop.
Yes. And it's really weird. Like all the big cities and stuff used to have their own, like some cities had multiple stores for the game shop. So the same shop, but multiple locations in the same place.
Yes.
And it was really odd, because you could be at the top of town, there'd be one, mid-town, there'll be another one, bottom of town, there's another one. Then they all disappeared and went inside a sports shop.
It's the weirdest combination because it's not one that I would draw a straight line to. I'm going to go buy a football shirt and maybe if they just sold the FIFA game.
Yeah, I don't understand that. Yeah.
Or whatever. But what's even sadder is if you go to certain high streets, there's a city near us called Truro. Yeah. And it's got a Sports Direct, let's name the shop, and it's got a game in it.
Yeah.
It doesn't sell any games.
Yes.
No consoles.
Yep.
It's just memorabilia.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just merch.
And the Plymouth
Fortnite,
one.
mainly.
Yeah, the Plymouth one, which is really weird. And one of the first ones that I saw and made me go, what? Because Plymouth had 3 game stores at one point. And I went to go there to go to a game store and it said shut down. And the other one was shut down. And then went past Sports Direct and it was in there. So I went in there and they had like a LAN party thing going on in the back where there was all these computers set up with screens where you could go and like pay to play games in there. And then there was just merch. And that was their game store.
That's odd, isn't it?
And as far as I'm aware, it's still that.
Because the idea of... there's so much I loved about the game store, but I'll get onto that in a second. The idea of having like network parties is something you would go, that would keep a game store alive.
Yeah,
That's a great idea.
Yeah, like a cafe, like those cafe places where you'd go and pay for time on the internet. Whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. But then to put that inside a sports shop, it's weird.
And it was unstaffed as well, I want to say that. So there was no staff there. You just went in. And if you wanted to buy something, you'd have to go right to the very back of this sports shop, pick up the game or merch that you wanted, and then go and pay for it where you'd pay for some sandals or something. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was just weird.
Yeah.
Very weird.
So we're left with overpriced secondhand stores.
Yes.
Entertainment exchanges.
Yeah, we're the only ones CEX, isn't it?
CEX. What's the American? I know CEX is in America, but they've got an American equivalent that's really popular. I can't remember what it's called.
Don't know.
But basically, it's overpriced secondhand games. You can find some bargains in there if you're lucky, but that's the only thing on the high street that's left for game stores around us. And there was so much that I loved about a game store. Firstly, it's a sad decline because of the reasons you just said at the start. That kind of level of customer service, going and seeing someone who is, let's say, an expert, for want of a better word, in this thing that can help you with your hardware issues.
Yeah.
Somewhere you can go in and say, "Oh, I've heard there's a new XYZ game coming out. Can I pre-order it and they'll do it for you over the counter and it'll get delivered there?" But also, I know we've spoke about it before, but the in-store demos.
Yes.
How huge that was when you were a kid.
Yeah.
The kiosks, like the PlayStation kiosk.
Yeah.
They start to disappear, which is really sad. But that was such a cool thing. And you would go and see the game that you may maybe not be able to afford yet, or maybe haven't even heard of yet, and you get to see it in action.
Yeah, you could actually see it. And me, like, remembering back to when I was a kid, which is probably like my peak, which I loved, back in my local town where there was 3 game shops, but before Game Station came, there was an independent game shop, which again, there's very, very few and far between here in the UK as far as I'm aware. Most of them are like retro ones rather than like an actual independent game shop, if that makes sense. But this place called Game On was there, right? And I'd go in there and it was almost like from a film. It was a very, very small room. The guy behind the counter had CRTVs, like, you know, set up with different consoles plugged in, and he would always just be sat playing a game behind the counter, right? And so you could go in and watch him or ask him what he was doing or whatever, and you could go in, you could trade in games, you could buy one, he would let you like swap them out and stuff like that if you didn't like it or whatever. It was really cool, but it was like that bit more seedy, like underground game shop. And then the big hitters came in. Game Station was first, I believe, and then Game, they ended up putting him out of business, unfortunately. And we're talking like early 2000s here. But that was great. I remember being a kid, I could go to Game On, I could then go to Game Station, and then go to Game. And it was like that different levels of like professionalism. Do you know what I mean? Game On was the little independent. Game Station was a bit more like, it wasn't grimy at all, but I mean, it felt a bit more alternative. And they played like rock music in there and they were all a bit cool. Do you know what I mean? And they would give you better prices for games and stuff. Whereas Game was trying to be like that high street, clean cut. Like,
that's where you go and buy the new games.
Yeah,
that's where your mum would go and get a Christmas present.
Yeah. And they actually hoovered the carpet, that kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, whereas the other ones, they didn't. So it was that kind of thing. And that was great. And now all of a sudden they've just slowly disappeared.
Yeah. I mean, it's not just gaming it's happened to, so it's not an exclusive to our industry.
No, not at all.
There's certain things in our industry that have accelerated it for its own reasons. And almost 100% is going to be e-stores.
Yes.
Yes, online retail is a thing.
Yeah.
But I would argue the case that the digital-only versions are probably more at the reason for the game stores disappearing.
But also just online retail as well.
Yes,
because I mean, put it this way: Red Dead Redemption, coming to PS4 and Switch, right? And naturally, I'm like,
let's not talk about it. Yeah.
Naturally, I'm going to go get the Switch version, right?
Yeah.
Not the digital version because I personally get, physical, just like yourself. So I was like, right, let's have a look, see if I can find it. Now I know for a fact the game store that is actually still left in my town will be full price, if not more, because they overprice everything there. I actually got it for almost £6 less than the digital price for the physical version. So I pre-ordered it for £34 instead of the £40 digital version. And that's from a respectable online retailer. Obviously, they've got no bricks and mortar. They've got no shop.
Yeah.
So they're just running a website.
Yeah.
They're not paying for all the staff. I know they'll have warehouse staff or whatever, but
it's not the same.
It's not the same. So that killed, and I'm a sucker for it. Like I will save money where I can. So I will absolutely buy my games online.
But you inherently touched upon something that's really important. Even before online retail being more convenient and slightly cheaper, you don't have the experience of going into a shop, which is
absolutely
real disappointment. But Red Dead Redemption re-release, not remaster,
Yeah.
it's digital only for 2 months.
Yes.
That tells you everything as to why the game stores have closed.
Yeah.
If I'm like day one excitable and I want to buy, if this was the remaster that we wanted it to be,
Yeah.
and I want to play it day one because I'm that excited kid,
You have to play it digitally.
I'd have to buy it digitally.
Absolutely.
And what do they ensure when you buy it digitally? Well, they ensure that your copy is only your copy.
Yes.
It's probably only available on that system that you bought it on.
Absolutely.
You can't share it.
Yep.
I can't lend it to you to play it.
Absolutely, yeah.
And when I'm done with it,
Yeah.
and I'm not a collector, let's say, I'm just a casual player, I can't take it to my local games exchange
And swap it in
and sell it.
Yeah. And you've paid full price. They've made more money because they're not having to distribute it and all that kind of
So
stuff.
then those game stores that did deal in pre-owned as well, which most of them did,
Yes.
have lost the pre-owned market.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because then there's people like me, and this is me, who always go into these stores and look for a bargain, a game I've not played or collectible game that's probably pre-owned.
Yep.
If there's less of those available because everyone's buying it digitally, that whole part of the market disappears.
Yeah.
And all it does ensure is that the publishers make a lot more money.
Yeah. Absolutely, because people are buying the game more rather than buying it secondhand,
Yeah.
where they make no money because they've only sold it once, effectively.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and it's a shame because all the game shops, when I remember being a kid, they were game shops. There were very, very little merchandise in there. Like little, if any. Like you would get a little bit, maybe like 5% of the shop would be merchandise.
I'll be honest, I can't really recall a huge amount of merchandise existing.
No.
It was only like the
that's true.
very biggest franchises that ended up with merchandise.
But I remember wall to wall with games, whether that was brand new or pre-owned, just purely games. And then as the stores started dying, they started shifting gear more towards merchandise.
Yeah.
And the classic one is the game that is in my local town. That I would say is 80% merchandise.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
and that's it. There's like tiny bits of pre-owned games, but most of it, they just want to sell you like a t-shirt or a teddy bear or a key ring or whatever it might be, a mug or a wallet.
And
or
Game,
whatever.
which in the UK was the last surviving chain of shops, got bought out by a high street mogul who owns loads of high street, including that Sports Direct shop.
Yep.
So what we also saw, even before the movement into the sports shops, but definitely since then, we're now seeing not just merchandise, but also just general toys.
Yes. Yeah.
Things that are like remote. If I go into what is Game Now, which is the back of a sports shop, they've got like some Hot Wheels cars. They've got some like Ski Electrics, model cars.
Like Lego sets and
Lego
stuff. Yeah.
Really, Magic the Gathering and stuff. I know that was probably
it was
already in there.
I think it was always kind of like that.
But just a general wider spread of just toys, which just toy shops did that anyway.
Yeah.
If you went into any toy shop, they had games. But the other interesting thing, to show you how unsustainable game retailing is the big supermarkets have started to pull out of it.
Absolutely. And that shocked me when I was on Facebook one day. This is probably a year or so now. And I was scrolling across and people were saying, Tesco like selling these Switch games at like 10 quid each, and they were like big titles like Metroid 5 Dread and stuff for like a tenner. And I'm like, what? Like, you know, I need to get down there, you know? And my store had already cleared. And then they've redesigned the area where it was, and they never had that much anyway.
No.
But it's gone. They don't do any game stuff now. They still sell random electronics. You can go up there and buy a DVD player, which is out of date by like 20 years. Do you know what I mean? Like, but you can buy like random jank.
But supermarkets don't make mistakes. They wouldn't be stocking the DVD player if it didn't sell.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
They're too big. They don't make mistakes like that. So they obviously stopped selling games.
Yeah, so they stopped doing it. Yeah.
Because they weren't selling.
Yes. It's a shame.
It's a shame. But you can still get in every shop vouchers for the e-store.
Oh yeah, you can buy the Apple iTunes kind of like £20 voucher.
Xbox, your PlayStation, your Nintendo credits. You can still buy them in in all the shops.
Yeah, that's true.
Which again tells you everything. I'm trying to think of any uptick. Is there any upside to this kind of morose story?
Not really.
For me, it's as sad as when we start to lose the music shops, but probably more so because there's more experience involved in gaming and going into a game store, getting to touch and feel, getting to demo the games and getting to talk to.
My thing was the talking to the staff, because I'd be in there every weekend. Like every weekend I'd go to town. I'd go in, chat, even if I wasn't buying anything, I would go in there and I like vaguely knew the staff. Do you know what I mean? Because I'd always be in there chatting, and I'd come in and they would like, one of them would recognize me and be like, oh, have you seen this game's coming out or whatever? Or have you played this? And I'd be like, no. Or other way around, I'd go, I've not seen this before. What's that? Like, and then they would have always have played it or had some sort of knowledge. And then you'd banter backwards and forwards, or you'd say like, I like these kind of games. Anything you'd recommend? And I like that community as being a lonesome gamer sat in his room with his curtains drawn.
The biggest, that's really is the biggest part that's going to be missing now is how do you get introduced to things that you're not already into?
Absolutely. There's not really a way.
No.
Because you wouldn't have that unless you've got like a big online like guild or something. Do you know what I mean? Where you're talking to people with different tastes.
We've definitely seen it in all the videos across 128 KB that we put out. People are into what they're into, and when they're online, they'll watch the videos or consume the content that they want to. So you may have a big subscriber base, but not everyone's going to turn up for everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if I'm just into very specific Switch games, then it's going to be very specific things on your channel that I'm going to turn up to. Yeah. As soon as you do a Steam Deck video, I'm not.
It's not for me.
I still love you, but I'm not going to watch this.
Yeah.
But when you went into a game store, there'll be someone that you vaguely know or like who works there, or maybe is someone else who comes in every Saturday who'll go, oh, mate, have you seen this? And you go, no, I'm not into those kind of side-scrolly games. You go, honestly, you've got to try it.
Yeah.
That's gone.
And it has, And I'm even feeling that a little bit with Baldur's Gate 3. Like, I played the first one many, many years ago, and I liked it, but I don't remember how much I liked it, and it's turn-based.
Yeah.
And now it's like I think it's already the best reviewed game ever right now out of any ever game, like,
I've seen a lot about it.
But it's turn-based.
Yeah.
And I don't really like turn-based. Yeah, I know I play Pokemon and stuff, whatever. But I don't really like turn-based, right? But
Massive Pokemon fan.
But I absolutely love fantasy games and RPGs like this.
Yeah.
But I'm like, because I'm an ARPG fan, I love Diablo and action RPGs. So hearing it's like a turn-based, and yes, I've heard that you can put it on like an easy mode, which kind of like basically does the fights for you.
Yeah. I'm
still not buying that because I haven't had someone that's actually experienced the game that I would have ran into in a shop.
Yeah.
Where I would have gone, I'm on the fence about it. And they would have gone, have you played this yet? And I'll go, no, I don't like turn-based. And they would have gone, no,
Absolutely. Would have persuaded you to try.
Yeah. And
or maybe even lent you theirs after it was released or whatever.
Absolutely. And even though I've watched some videos, I'm still
the new Baldur's Gate's a really good example of it. Obviously, you know about the name, you know about the previous games. I never played them. It never did anything for me.
Yeah.
Now I'm hearing more and more about it. Every conversation I'm having, every time I go online, I see something about it.
Yeah.
And it's all positive. But if I'd gone to a game store, there would have been someone in there that would have insisted, you've got to try it. You've got to try it.
If not, they would have been playing it. And you could have watched it.
They would have been playing it.
It would have been on the screen or
on
whatever.
The demo kiosk or behind the counter. It would have been there somewhere.
And I found loads of games that I liked by playing on the kiosk stuff.
100%.
I actually think that's how I found out about F-Zero and Gravity Racers. Because I was never massively big on racing games.
Yeah.
But I've always been into sci-fi and stuff. And I'm pretty sure there was a GameCube hooked up with F-Zero, or it might have even been an N64 with F-Zero X. I don't remember, but there was definitely something like that. Or it might have even been a PlayStation with Wipeout.
I was going to say, that was literally what I was just about to say.
Yeah, it probably was Wipeout on the PlayStation. And I was like, this is sick. This is so much better than a normal racer. And then that's how I got into it. And then I found F-Zero and all that kind of stuff. So without that, I wouldn't have even tried it.
Yeah.
Unless I got a demo out of a magazine, which again, magazines are dead.
They're dead, yeah.
You don't get gaming magazines anymore. Well, not really, not with discs in it.
And how would they?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Back in the time where you'd get the official PlayStation, I would.
Yeah.
Every month, the official PlayStation magazine, primarily because I couldn't afford the games when I was a kid, obviously, and we weren't well off enough to buy games.
Yeah.
So they would be my games. Literally play the demos.
Yep.
And then I'd go into the stores and play the kiosks.
Yep.
I remember before having the PlayStation, as a kid, this is, when the OG PlayStation came out. It was about 18 months, maybe even 2 years before we managed to get one.
Mm.
But every weekend I'd go into, I'm trying to think where I was playing it, but whatever the local game store was, and it was Wipeout, just smashing it.
Yeah.
Or whatever demo they were playing, Crash maybe as well.
Yeah.
I'd just been obsessed with it.
Yeah, Medieval again, like loved that. I think I had the demo disc that had those on.
Yeah.
And it was so good. I just used to rinse that first level or whatever it was that was on the demo and just replay it.
I tell you what, there's a future podcast about missing free demos that came on magazines.
Yeah. And yes, okay, you've got demos now that you can download, but
it's not the same.
It's not the same.
Because you get, we'll do it in
we'll do it in
you get a compilation, it'd be random.
Yep.
And there was always some rubbish indie
another
games.
podcast idea. But yeah, back to the actual topic.
Yeah, well, here's the other thing, and this is kind of on point, and also to show off.
Yeah. Did you buy that in a game store?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So whenever Nintendo do these controllers, I'm a sucker, and I'll buy one and wish I'd bought two because they'd sell out straight away.
Absolutely.
In fact, behind me is the N64 one.
Yes.
At the same time, the NES and the SNES ones came out, the wireless controllers for the Switch. And I bought one SNES one.
Me too.
And I didn't buy the NES ones. And you're like, oh, I've seen them. They're really cool because they actually dock onto the Switch.
Yeah. They're proper Joy-Con style.
And I was like, oh, I don't. And at the time, they were like 50 quid each.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't do another 50 quid on these. Anyway, the tweet goes out. If you've got Nintendo Store membership, then these are £25 right now.
Yeah.
From Nintendo direct off their website.
Yeah.
50% off. Back in the day, I would have bought these from the game store.
Absolutely.
Especially if there was suddenly a flash sale and they were like half price.
I would have just taken it off the counter and, that'd be it. I'd have bought it. I resisted buying these.
But these are only, much like the SNES and the N64 ones, are only available online.
Directly from them.
From Nintendo.
Yep.
Only for Nintendo Direct members, I believe.
Yes, something like that. Yeah, Nintendo account holders or something. It's one per account. I know that.
Yeah.
You can, and the same with the N64. I think you can buy 4 per account just so that you've got the right, number.
Basically, Mario Kart.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But it just shows even more how declined the game stores are and how it's the games industry kind of doing it to itself. Because stuff like this is only available on, it even says it on the box. Literally.
Yeah. But the other side then goes, how much longer are game stores at all going to be around when it all goes digital? Because at some point,
in the next 5 years, they've gone.
Physical media is going to go.
Yes.
Like, it absolutely
The only game stores we'll see will be like the record stores that we have now.
Yeah. So
those
just be
quirky retro collectors.
Independent stores, not like mass chains like we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be like
back alley stuff.
Yes.
Which is kind of cool and grimy.
Yeah.
It's got its own appeal.
Yeah.
Or they'll all be really corporate like CEX.
Yes. Well, that would probably be the only place that you can get them from.
Yeah. But eventually they'll go as well because physical media will disappear.
Yeah.
Which, do you know, I was a lot more stoic about that would be a bad thing. Right up until I dropped every single PlayStation 1 game in one go.
Yeah, your shelf system fell over, didn't it? That was savage.
It was so bad.
I cried for you when you sent me the photo.
Honestly, I sat here and I heard this almighty smash. What was that noise? It was a bit like Snake. Huh? What was that noise?
Yeah.
Whose footprints are these? So big exclamation mark appeared above my head, and I ran.
Yeah, in a cardboard box
to my games room, and that sounds really posh, doesn't it? My games room.
My games room, yes.
I ran to the room where my games are, and the shelf of all of my PS1 games was on the floor, face down, in a pile of I could only describe as broken PS1 games.
Yeah, all the cases are shattered, smashed.
And do you know what's even worse? I managed to find somewhere in France that makes replica empty PS1 cases.
Yeah.
I was like,
nice.
No way. Now they're not the PlayStation ones. They don't have the little seal sticker on them.
Yeah.
But they are identical in every other way. So I was like, that's fine. I'm not collecting them for their value. I just like having them.
Yeah.
So that's fine, but I'd rather have them in a case that's holding them together.
Yeah.
So I figured out I got about 20 that were broken beyond
repair. Yeah.
There's the rest of them are passable.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll change it in the future.
Yeah.
So all of these cases from France.
Yeah.
Guess what happened when I opened them?
No idea. Were they broken in the box?
Yeah, 5 of them are broken.
Oh, man. Did you tell them? Are they going to replace them?
I was like, there's loads of them that are broken, mate. He's like, I'll send you more next time you order.
Oh, great.
I was like, I cannot be bothered to fight this.
Man, that's gutting.
Yeah.
That is properly gutting.
So anyway, physical media disappearing.
Yeah.
I was a lot more like, no, physical media is the only way to really own the game, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But, as time goes on, I'm more like, if the Project Q,
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, there's still hope for it yet.
Yeah.
If it does work off these new PlayStation servers, Project Chronos.
Yeah.
And has the emulation for 3, 2, and 1 on there.
Yes.
And can stream PS4 and 5 games off of the server.
Yeah.
I'm kind of all in.
Yeah, just a PlayStation cloud device. Like,
do you know what?
Yeah, we're going to have to give up the Ghost at some point. We're going to have to let go.
Yeah,
embrace the future.
At some point, it's just for the best.
And do you know what did it for me as well? When I got the next-gen gaming system, the PS5.
Yeah.
I stuck the disc in, and it went... And then every half an hour, before they updated it, it was every 20 minutes it scanned the license on your disc, and I was like, "Are you serious?" Because I'd have the volume fairly quiet.
It's like the PlayStation's got amnesia, isn't it?
Yeah, and it'd be like, "Hang on a second, and got to make sure it's not illegal." And I'm like, "Oh, dude, come on!" It's like, why do you have to even scan it? Surely you've read it once. So that kind of started annoying me.
Really
and then
annoying.
I'm thinking, you know what? If it was a digital game, it wouldn't be doing that.
No.
and
the other thing as well. You buy a new game, PS5 game, and you put it in your PS5. It starts off and sounds like SpaceX is in your room.
Yeah.
And, that's annoying. Then it's got to install it. It's kind of slow.
Really freaking slow.
And then it's got to download some more content.
Yep.
And then it's scanned the server and there's an update.
Yeah.
Now I've got to download the content.
Yeah. Whereas
I might as well just bought the digital version.
Exactly, which would have just downloaded it all in one, and it would have been much
silently
quicker. Yeah,
in the background.
Absolutely, yeah. And the other thing for me is with the Steam Deck, realizing most games I'm just buying on Steam.
Yeah,
because I can play on my PC hooked up to the TV, or I can play on my Steam Deck wherever I want. And that's linked to my account forever. That's why I've got game saves from 15 years ago on my Steam. And I'm like, it's just so much more convenient.
So are we saying that it's probably right that the game store dies?
Probably.
After all of this?
Yeah, so we're there. We turned up to moan about it. And now we're like, go and shut down already.
So what you actually want isn't a game store. You want them to turn into gaming cafes that you'd never use, because I know you don't leave your house.
No, I don't. I only leave my house to come here. That's pretty much it.
So what you want is a game cafe, or somewhere you meet up and talk or play games for you when you were 14.
Yes. That's it.
There we have it. And that's the perfect way to end this.
No, but ultimately, I think this has been a realization of, the journey down nostalgia to realize actually we're probably just going to succumb to digital in the future.
Like we discussed in the past, nostalgia is killing video games.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, what bugs me right now for the main things before we end this, for the Xbox or PlayStation and stuff, is a lot of the digital games are tied to their storefront.
Yes.
You can't always buy that digital game elsewhere.
Yeah.
Whereas with Steam...
Well, PlayStation got loads of trouble for that.
Yeah, so you can't... with Steam, you can buy Steam games basically anywhere.
Yes.
Some shady places, I'll admit. Others not so shady. Do you know what I mean?
So do you think PlayStation games digitally should be available on other sites as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's say physical media ended now. Right now, with Thanos it and it was all gone, right? Then because you're going to put thousands of people out of a job. All these online retailers would be gone. Do you know what I mean? Because there would be no way of selling games other than dodgy Steam keys. Do you know what I mean? That would be it. So yes, I absolutely think that people should be able to purchase. It's the right to purchase, right? You should be able to have a choice to purchase elsewhere rather than being forced to buy from them only.
That's literally the the case that was brought against Sony, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That and because they were locking it to being the only place you could buy the digital content, that they were fixing the price, so they were done for price fixing, and were told to repay loads of people.
Absolutely, but that must be the case because I shop around for my games. Do you know what I mean? We don't get games sent to us.
Well, and quite often, if you go on the digital store, the games are more expensive than than physically.
Well, like I just said with Red Dead.
Yes,
I just saved £6 off of a £40 game. So that's almost that's like
15%.
Yeah, I was going to say more than 10%. So 15% discount. I'm getting a physical that I can have on my shelf. And if I had it digitally, it would be linked to my account to potentially be played anywhere if I had a Steam version. But you get what I'm saying, and most of the time I do find physical games for less, which makes no sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
And that's why that's why I'm fighting the digital only, because I don't want to be forced to buy it from PlayStation Network only and pay full price. I wouldn't buy it. I'd wait 3-4 years until it was discounted and then I'd buy it.
When we discussed this in a different podcast, the physical v digital thing, and I vividly remember a comment coming in, and we were talking about why digital games are more expensive than physical games, and that makes no sense.
Yeah.
Someone commented saying it's more expensive to sell them digitally, and they were claiming because of the amount that the store charges.
Costs, yeah.
But the store is owned by Sony.
Yeah, so if it's Sony selling Sony on Sony...
so what they're saying is that the price is fixed.
Yeah.
So it's price fixing is the reason why it's so expensive.
Yeah, exactly.
Which goes back to the point of it makes no sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, just logically, for someone to buy this, make this...
Yeah.
You're making the cardboard box, you're making the plastic packaging mold, you're making the actual physical item. And in the case of games, let's take a Switch, where it's not just a disc press, which is cheap, like a physical cartridge with a circuit board on it, with flash memory on it. That ain't cheap.
No.
How is that cheaper than making a digital game, which they just press button on? Do you know what I mean? They've got to pay a percentage to host the game or whatever, but that's still not more expensive.
They want to make another copy
physically.
There you go. There's another copy made.
I've run out. 10. Enter. Oh, I've got more. Yay. Whereas making a physical thing,
obviously more expensive.
You need a factory. You need people. Do you know what I mean?
And then you've got to pay the retailer to sell it.
Yeah, exactly.
And all the courier
and
to
the distributor and the shipment and whatever.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Anyway, we've drifted around everything on this one.
Yeah, we have.
But the game store is dead. Long live the game store.
Yeah.
That's about it, isn't it?
Pretty much it.
What do you guys think about it? Do you miss the game stores on your high street? Are they still there wherever you are in the world?
Yeah, if you're in a different country other than the UK.
Maybe in Kazakhstan, they've got loads.
They might do.
We are the top 4 podcasting.
We are,
Kazakhstan
so thank you very much. Yeah.
So there's that, which is great. And if you are listening to us on the podcast platforms, do rate us, because it means the world. It does help us out.
It does.
And of course, if you're on YouTube, they're the buttons.
And watch videos, press buttons.
Videos, buttons,
and just all
faces.
Yeah, subscribes.
See you next time.
And with that, I'm leaving.
Oh, you'll get...
I'm leaving.
I'll just stay here then.